This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Friday, we are back. It is time to talk a little Canes. We are at Caneswear. We have our Caneswear insider, the best in the business, Manny Navarro, kind enough to join us now. And we are working on something with Manny to we're going to bring you more Manny and more Canes coverage on the show. The Heat coverage will expand. The Canes coverage will expand. You know, obviously we've already got the best offense coverage there is in town. Period. So now we're going to expand the other ones slowly but surely. We'll get everything done, but you're going to get more of Manny. So how you doing, my brother? You doing good?
I'm doing great, man. Happy to come down here. I haven't been here in a few months, so it's nice to kind of walk in and see the area again. Glad football season's over. We got this recruiting thing done for now. It's just the coaching staff. So to me, I'm almost ready to go on a little bit of a break. I'm almost there.
So you're just waiting for the offensive coordinator.
Right. Which, by the way, I don't know if you saw the reports with the Auburn coach, Brian Harsin, that were kind of going around late last night. Kevin Steele was there for 5 years, the new defensive coordinator at Miami. I know that there were people fighting for him to be the head coach. They had named him interim head coach. So same way he came into Miami, you know, being taken away from Maryland, until that story goes away, I'd say be cautious. You don't know that Auburn comes after him to replace Brian Harsin if that story comes to fruition and he's fired and he's let go.
Wow. Damn. So that would be oof.
Yeah, I know.
What are we here? What are we? Well, but you know what? And I give Mario credit because while it's taken a while, he ended up getting like a really good coach to come here in the process. That's pretty cool that he's able to do that. So you're seeing that while it's a slow process, it's a deliberate one that he's taking his time because he's really trying to find the right person.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. I mean, I had a brief conversation with him a couple of weeks ago, and I know that he had, had conversations with more than 20 people about this job. And the way he goes about it, is real simple. Long conversations with each of these individuals and doesn't promise them, hey, you're going to get the job. It's just, hey, I'm doing my homework. I'll circle back to you. So I think a lot of this process has been Mario doing these interviews, going through the recruiting process, trying to finish Miami's recruiting class, and then circling back to these guys and saying, hey, I want to offer you the job, or I think this is how you'll fit in. And at that point, those guys have either gotten themselves raises where they're at,
right,
or just tell him, listen, I'm not going to move my family. I've already moved my family X amount of times in X amount of years. So, look, in the end, this guy, he's got the biggest budget in the ACC to work with. He's interviewing a lot of quality individuals. Kevin Steele didn't even coach last year. He was making so much money. He was at home basically collecting a check from Tennessee and Auburn. In the end, he's going to get good coaches one way or another. It's just this is the game now. I mean, coaches stealing from each other, stealing guys. I mean, Travaris Robinson going to Alabama with Nick Saban, McClendon, the receivers coach, going to Georgia. It's the way this thing sort of works. It's the coaching carousel, as I like to say, and eventually he's going to land on some good guys. He said it's going to be done next week. We'll see. I hope so. I got my fingers crossed.
Okay, so my follow-up question to that would be, and you kind of gave me some chum in the water for it. So he's talking to guys, and you just mentioned he has the biggest budget in the ACC. So plan B can be, okay, I'm not going to get this guy. Okay, I'm going to go steal that guy.
Correct. Yeah, and that's really what this is about nowadays. Okay. The best coaches, they sign deals, but they have buyouts. They have ways to get out of deals, right? I mean, it's just the way it is. Kevin Steele already had an office set up at Maryland. We started working a week ago Friday. Mario comes in with his offer over the weekend. He decides he wants to take the Miami job. He does. He accepts, I guess, Tuesday. And now it's one of those deals where they're waiting on him. They're waiting on him to, sort of complete everything, go through all the paperwork, and then we'll see if, like I said, what happens at Auburn. I mean, it's just all of these things are up in the air, man. I think he's going to be Miami's defensive coordinator. I think Harsin will probably still end up at Auburn. It would take a long investigation before he were to get fired at this point. But I'm just saying, like, in general, you talk about stealing coaches. Yes, that's the way this thing works now. Guys are.
That's why I asked, because
they're mercenaries, man. They're mercenaries.
But it just makes me feel so good to hear you say, well, they've got the biggest budget in the ACC.
Yep.
Because now we're playing with the big boys.
Right.
And that's what I like now, that they're actually giving the coach It's funny because we have this discussion about the whole Tua thing, and I say, some people tell me, well, oh, what do you want? Just a perfect situation for Tua? And I said, no, I just want what the Saints have, what Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill have. I just want him to have what Tannehill has. I want him to have what Kirk Cousins has. I just want him to have what Matthew Stafford has. Just give him a good team,
Right.
and see what he can do at that point. Same thing here, dude. Just give the coach the resources they need, and now let's see what they can actually do. And it's nice to know that Mario's a good coach and a damn good recruiter, but all of that is still an uphill battle if you don't have the same resources everybody else has.
Correct.
And that's something that we've always talked about.
Yeah, I think back to all the times, we would mention Kevin Steele when they would talk about defensive coordinators because he was one of the top ones in the SEC, and we always said, yep, Miami's never going to have the money for that guy. And now this guy was making $2 million last year not to coach, to basically be on his ass at home on vacation, and that's the guy they go out and they get, now that his contracts are up with those schools. So, yeah, I mean, the fact that Miami is a player and they're in the big boy pool now, it feels different, and it's going to be different. I mean, just look at what he did with this recruiting class.
Yeah, dude. The jump it made.
They would not have. I mean, had Manny Diaz still been coach, I mean, some of these kids that they ended up signing may have still come here, but certainly not the Cyrus Mosses and the Nigel Lee Kellys, the kids that are the top 2 recruits, the Jaleel Skinner kid. Those kids would not have been here. Those 3 top 100 kids have not been here, and Mario's impact is felt in that way, and it's going to be felt in the next recruiting class because kids want to come play for him. And the best part about this, is the fact that him and Mirabal together, you think about, them two premier offensive line coaches, we think about how tough it is to recruit that position.
Right.
Now the best kids want to come play that position again. And if you're going to beat Alabama or you're going to beat Georgia or you're going to win a national championship, you're not going to do it with a bunch of guys who can't play up front. You got to have those linemen. Those are the teams that make it every single year. Ohio State gets those linemen. That's why they get to the championship game. So I think that's the next step for Miami. And I think the fact that Mario and Mirabal are here together, they're going to be some good offensive linemen coming in the next couple of years.
Well, not only that, they'll be coached up well where they'll play also to their potential. Like Zion's decision to stay was a really smart one on his part because I think he will now be able to really help his draft stock this coming season because he will show to be a better player probably under this coaching because Mirabal's considered one of the best coaches on the offensive line.
Yeah, and anybody who says Mirabal's riding the coattails of Cristobal doesn't realize where this guy was at. He went to Marshall, and you think about the success that Doc Holliday had Marshall when they won 10 or 11 games, I think 3 years in a row. That guy went in there. He had you go back and you look at the recruiting that Marshall did. He took a bunch of walk-ons and no-star kids and turned them into legit players. A couple of them made the NFL.
Right.
I mean, this guy knows how to develop players.
Of course.
And Mario, I mean, himself is so heavily involved in it.
Well, Mario's not going to keep a guy around because he's your friend.
No, not in the
Mario's
least,
like
dude.
super old school, dude. He's not old school lazy. Like, hey, yeah, my hang-arounds. No, dude. Like, yeah, you're my buddy, but dude, if you don't work, you're not around, bro. You can't help me. You know what I mean? Like,
no.
We'll have a beer later, okay?
No, this is for Mario. It's about being the best. It's the same drive that Saban has. Like Saban's not going to just keep a guy around because they're buddies. That's not what's going to happen. And the other aspect to all this, you talk about Miami spending more on assistants. Again, the developmental staff, right? The people just around the program, the way that Alabama and Georgia have it, where they've got 30 other people around the program that aren't even coaches. They're just analysts. They're developmental staff, people who take these kids tutoring, make sure they get massaged, just the handling of the kids. Miami is spending like the big boys now to do those things, and that is going to make a difference in landing kids. Because when the parents come with their with their top recruits to come see the campus, okay, maybe they don't have as many championships as Alabama's had the last few years, but certainly everything else is going to be there. I mean, the indoor practice facilities being upgraded, the locker rooms are being upgraded, the weight room is being upgraded. I mean, Dan Radakovich is here to do all that part, the new athletic director. So from where we were a year ago to where we are today and where we're going to be a year from now and 2 years from now with Miami, I mean, this is what you wanted as a Miami fan.
Yeah, and I was talking about this earlier that Mario reminds me a lot of a young Jimmy Johnson
Hmm.
in the sense that Coker wasn't an established coach. He did a good job, but it was, going awry on him towards the end because he couldn't maintain. Um, Manny was an experience. Al Golden came from Temple, really wasn't a big time school. Randy Shannon had no experience as a head coach. This is the first time, I know Rick was an experienced guy, but he was already older and it was, on the back end,
Right.
on the back nine of his career at that time. And so we all know what Rick is dealing with and all that stuff. So this is like the first time they actually get a young guy that is now well trained after his experiences at FIU, Alabama, and Oregon, and he gradually took steps to higher spots along the way and proved himself along the way to have success in all those areas. They haven't had a coach that's as prepared as him since, I would say, Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
And he was more successful at Oregon than Jimmy was at Oklahoma State, actually, to be honest.
Right.
But still, I just think that it's really ripe, the situation, and that Mario is like set to now take the next step in his success of having even more success than he had at Oregon with this stage. That's why I feel really good about this right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what's the next step? I mean, he's got to get the offensive coordinator and the guy who's going to bring the quarterbacks in. That's the next aspect of it because Mario's not a guy who recruits quarterbacks. Obviously, he's had guys that can do it for him on his staffs. But my point is, you kind of need to find that partner, right? That guy that you link up with that's going to be the innovator, the guy that's going to be getting the kind of players that you want in here to play quarterback. So that's the next step. But without a question, like you mentioned, Jimmy Johnson, I think just from a player evaluation standpoint and a guy who loves it, right? Jimmy
Right.
loved it.
Right.
Jimmy
Yeah.
loved just finding
Lived it, loved it. Yeah.
Mario, like this is his passion.
Yes.
His passion is player, like just finding those guys.
And even more than Jimmy, his passion is the U.
Right. Exactly.
Jimmy didn't come in with the passion for the U.
He did eventually once he was done.
Right. and he still has it.
Yeah.
But this guy, because he came through the Jimmy and that era of learning the passion of the U, you're getting a guy that already has the desire to have success here more than any of us.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think more than anything else, he's just relentless. Like, some guys could get to a certain point. He's 51 years old. You get to a certain point where you're satisfied, right? Where like, hey, I won 2 Rose Bowls. I got my dream job now, right? He could settle in and just be like, hey, you know what? We're going to go really hard. I'm going to hire good staff. That's not his mentality, dude. Like he went through 2 months of recruiting with 3 guys on his staff and he didn't care. Right. He was the one out on the road, traveling all over the place, meeting with kids face to face. Like it's the intensity that he has and the passion that he has to make Miami great. You're not going to get that anywhere else.
No.
There's nobody else on this earth walking with that kind of intensity. Nope. And look, it's no knock to Manny Diaz because I think Manny Diaz cared a lot about Miami. He certainly felt like this was his dream job. But Manny Diaz would probably show up at 7:30, 8 a.m. on a work day. Mark Cristobal was going to get there every day at 4 a.m. And he's going to demand that all of his assistants are there at 5 a.m. Like that's just the way that he is.
It's crazy stuff. All right, so offensive coordinator, what are you hearing? You hearing anything?
Well,
Lord knows I can't ask you for a timetable because you want it faster than us. You need a damn vacation.
Well, I believe Golish, the offensive coordinator at Tennessee, he's really the passing game coordinator, the guy who does the game planning for Tennessee, was the name this week that sort of surfaced. I know that he's a young guy. He was actually born in Moscow, Russia. Interesting little backstory with him. But he's been all over the place in college football. It was Iowa State, UCF 2 years ago, and then just left to Tennessee. So he's been to 3 schools in the last 3 years. Got 2 daughters. It's a lot to ask for a 4th move, right, with your wife to come down here. But I think he's a possibility. There were other names that were thrown out there. Joe Brady.
Where is he right now? You said
he's at Tennessee.
Yeah, you want to come to Miami?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think he's
Have
a
you
possibility.
seen what's going on in Tennessee? So,
Yeah.
I think you want to come to Miami.
I think he's a possibility.
If he's a good coach, he has a chance to build stability here for his girls.
Right. I think he's a possibility. I wouldn't say he's a favorite because I think there's also another list of names that none of us have been privy to, as much as we've tried to dig into it between agents and different
With
people.
Tyler Van Dyke, you've got to have an offensive coordinator who's going, I can have a glorious 2 years with that kid.
Right. No, there's a lot of this is definitely a place that you want to be with that guy, right? I mean, that's going to make your resume. I mean, people have talked about James Coley.
And I'm right? It's 2 more years, right?
Two more years.
Because he'll be a junior, right? It's sophomore and junior,
He'll
right?
be in his third year, so he can leave after the season.
Oh,
remember that COVID year threw off
a redshirt sophomore.
Yes, he's a redshirt sophomore.
Damn it. Okay.
Yes, but he's in his third year, and ultimately, he could leave after this coming season. But you do have Jake Garcia waiting in the wings. You do have a very good Ja'Cory Brown kid who I think is going to be a really good quarterback in college. He's a dual threat guy, very much Cam Newton-esque in terms of just body and ability. So, it's a good quarterback situation right now. It's who picks it up from there.
All right, good stuff. Manny, what are you working on The Athletic so we can check you out, my brother?
Well, just writing a couple of stories on some of the new recruits that have come in, the guys that they just signed in the last couple of days, the offensive tackles, Inez Cooper, who's a kid that weighed over 400 pounds, that got down. He may end up playing defensive tackle instead of offensive guard. And who's the other kid? Oh, Matthew McCoy out of St. Augustine, super athletic, former tight end turned offensive tackle, which every time you hear that, you're like, hey, this guy's got some really good athleticism.
Right.
Could be the next Zion Nelson. So 2 guys, I'm working on a feature on that. And then, the transfer portal, working with some of our ACC writers, Grace Rayner, who covers Clemson, Andy Bitter, who covers Virginia Tech. We're doing our little ranking of the transfer classes in the ACC, who came out a winner, who came out a loser. So a lot of stuff to be reading here in the next couple of days.
Make sure you subscribe also to The Athletic and support Manny. Follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro there. And check out the work there at The Athletic. Manny, as always, thank you, my brother. I appreciate you big time.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me.
You got it. There you go. Manny Navarro in our Caneswear Miami Hurricanes report.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.